Welcome to part 6. Hopefully those slides that took me an hour and about 18 takes on PTSD and traumatic stress disorders is helpful to get a deeper understanding adulthood traumatic experience and for the child. Kind of an overview. There's a lot of those, and I'm kind of in a not this distressful, but I'm kind of down going over all this, and there's nobody around, so I'm dealing with a lot of these memories, reliving them, and trying to learn how to do clip champ. I'm kind of down right now, and but I'll pull through. It's much easier for me to share and go over this when there's a group and I'm speaking or with my therapist. So, which is an indicator, a strong support group is very important to have someone to reach out to or some close family members that you're able to share your experiences with. But anyway, part 6, in the 5th grade. Now, school was really awesome. I had a lot of friends in class. I wasn't picked on at all, even though I was different still. And we had an awesome teacher. We only had one teacher, like 1 through 5. You get one teacher. You don't switch classes in South Florida. So I really had a good teacher. Things at home were good, except my dad wasn't there for me emotionally. Every weekend he had friends. My dad was really big into flying, and he had a flying business after the Marine Corps, and which I'll get into stories later about that. But he had friends that had planes, and every Saturday we would go flying in the morning in one of his buddies' planes. We would go somewhere and have breakfast or fly somewhere, locally, like within a 50-mile radius and have lunch. And that was fun. My dad is spending more time with me than he did my other siblings, which is why I had a closer relationship with my mom and dad as I grew older, which they did not. Which I don't know if I will share, but anyway. So, and then once we would land, like clockwork, we would go right across the street from the local airport to the bar. My dad would put me off in a back table and order me a, as he would call it, sody pop. Yeah, he'd give me now sit there, son, and drink your sody pop. And it was like clockwork. He would start getting drunk. He would pick a fight, beat the crap out of somebody, and they would kick him out. And every Saturday, they would tell him, "You better behave, or I'm going to tell me what to do." And yeah, he would end up beating somebody up. I really hated fighting because what I also didn't share back at the old neighborhood, there was a guy that he worked with for years, and it's really messed up, man. But like I said, my dad would always fight his younger brother, my Uncle John. They always got in, and I mean a brutal fist fight, which my Uncle John was Navy, my dad, former Marine. But they would just get into it. But there was this one guy, and I was really good friends with his 2 sons. Whenever they got together and would drink, my dad would just beat the crap out of him. And this one incident, I remember he threw him through the sliding glass door, and glass went everywhere. And my 2 friends, they're screaming and crying for their dad, and my dad was just on top of them, just beating them. My mom is screaming, his wife is just complete freaking chaos. And and then I forgot, after the flying, the haircut, the Marine Corps flat top, every week, and then the bar. And then we would go home, and my dad would act normal. We would do yard work, and really strange. And then he'd barbecue, and I'd go play with the kids in the neighborhood. But as you can see, a lot of the symptoms from witnessing traumatic events, I was always nervous around adults, just really, really nervous. And everybody thought I was shy, but actually I was just terrified, especially when my dad would take me to work around people he knew. I was really just really nervous. And then he would always end up going, "Tell him, son, what are you going to be when you grow up?" Now it became he wanted me to be a Marine Corps fighter pilot. And I'd have to look up and say, I want to be a Marine Corps fighter pilot. Hating it, knowing damn well there was no way I was going into Corps. Because I did not want to be like him. So things were normal until one weekend my parents went away, and they had friends of theirs, a married couple, stay over. And I got beans on in the background, so I keep looking to make sure it's not boiling over. So this one particular night, they said, "Hey, why don't you sleep in your mom and dad's bed tonight?" Because they had an AC wall unit in the bedroom, and it was summer, and it was hot down there. I didn't think anything of it. I said, "All right." So I went to bed, and I'm awakened by somebody. I'm not going to get into details, but which this affected me through all my relationships. Somebody was licking my ear and just breathing heavy into my ear. And I was like shocked. I mean, I remember being frozen in time, and I was terrified. I didn't want to move, and I couldn't flicker off whoever it was off my ear, and they're breathing heavy in my ear. And I couldn't, I was just like stuck, and they were laying on top of me and grinding my leg. And it was her. And then she ended up rolling off of me. And I remember they started performing sexual acts. And I remember rolling the opposite way and looking at the wall, laying there like frozen in time, looking at the digital clock and remembering just focusing on those numbers, on the time. And I was thinking, why did they make the digital clock numbers red? I was just trying to think. And I don't remember anything after that. Everything's a blank. I don't remember the next day. I had to wake up and I had to see them. I don't remember nothing. I don't remember my mom and dad coming back. I really don't know. And I didn't tell anybody the beans. I didn't tell anybody. And I remember for the longest time, I thought it was something I did wrong. And that really bothered me. But it was after that my behaviors really started to change. Um, I did not. I would like to do yard work when I wanted to do it, but then when my dad would say mow the yard after school, weed whack, do all that, I didn't want to do it. I hated it. But once I got into doing it, I enjoyed it. I loved yard work. And we had these fruit trees in our backyard, oranges and grapefruits, and I was supposed to go and pick the ones up off the ground and then mow. I just mow right over them, knowing damn well I was going to get yelled at. Pieces of fruit flying everywhere. He would tell me, and I used to trim the shrubs. I used to like to make them really manicured and round and like square, and he liked them to be bushy. And once a month, I would shape them, knowing damn well I'm going to get in trouble. I became really defiant. Excuse me. And I would just do things the complete opposite of what I would. When it was time to feed the dog, I would complain unless I wanted to do it. Um, the younger kids in the neighborhood that were younger than me, I became really bossy and treated them like shit. Do it my way. I sounded like my dad. And um, I don't know, man. And come to find out, when I was in therapy at 47 years old, and I shared that with my therapist in psychoanalysis, and I told her I can't remember what had happened, and I'm trying, and I've tried, and she told me don't. And she explained PTS to me. Basically, it's like to your emotional system, your brain cannot handle a traumatic event that is so stressful. You're emotionally not capable of handling that particular event. And what your brain does, it basically shuts down, which is why I can't remember. And it shuts down for a security purpose. And also, through my whole life, man, my wife and my friends uh, would tell me, dude, just grow the up. You know, why are you acting like a child? Especially when I would drink and get drunk. I would act like a child, man. And I never knew why. I just thought no one can get my sense of humor. But I found out from that one therapist, when an individual, especially a child, suffers PTSD, they emotionally stop maturing. They're stuck. And I was 12 years old, and I was stuck at 12, going through life, and I remember not only was I physically different, but my mentality was different, and I never had answers. And I've been given the SAMHSA address, SAMHSA, and I will have it in I'll try to post it after this. They have one on what's called co-occurring disorders. Individuals that have anxiety, PTSD, anxiety, or depression, whatever the list of a disorder is, and they have a substance abuse. Those are two different disorders, and one amplifies the other or exasperates the other, and vice versa. And for a lot of people that have a substance abuse problem that don't have that disorder, they will show signs of that particular disorder. So your therapist is supposed to be really skillful and knowledgeable on co-occurring disorders, and sadly, a lot of therapists don't treat the two different disorders separately. They are actually they're supposed to be treated separately, either by the same therapist or two different therapists that keep in touch with one another. So as I'm going through into middle school, kids were just, I mean, there were kids in the 8th grade that were shaving. Our middle school was 6th through 8th grade. There was kids in 8th grade that were shaving, that had a receding hairline, bigger than the teachers. My favorite classes was science and art and PE. And our PE teacher was a bodybuilder. And I kind of gravitated to him and would ask him all these questions through 6th and 7th and 8th grade. It was about the 7th grade. 6th grade, I didn't pass. I barely passed, but we had this math teacher. And I was very disorderly at organizing, and we had to keep our folders organized. And he had a folder inspection one day, and he saw my folder, and it was a disarray, man. And he just freaking annihilated me in front of everybody. He held my folder up. It was an example of how not to be, and just really tore into me. And everybody was looking at me as kids do. There's some snickering, there's some ignoring. Our school, now I started learning there's different cliques. And our school was mixed. A lot of low class, or not low class, excuse me, low income, middle income, and some high middle income. And there was a lot of drug addicts back in, well, I'm sure even today. But there was a lot, and Quaaludes were very popular back then. And all the drug addict kids, their clique was they were just laughing at me, and I really hated them. And because of what drugs did to my brother, because my mom started telling me about Mike, and he would come home from the army, which he was struggling with, and he would tell me about the drugs that he did before the army. So I was really terrified of drugs, and my mom put the fear of drugs into me, and I that just annihilated me, man. And my shell got thicker and it got deeper, and my insecurities. I mean, man, just when you think things can't get worse, they get worse. So I hated math from that moment on, and I never learned math at all. And even in high school, when I was a junior and senior, I wrestled and played football, and my coaches would get me signed out of class if me and some other players would buy them a case of beer every Friday. True story. Public schools for you, huh? So I was a whiz at science, and I was a whiz at art. My dad was a closet artist, and I got that from him. And I was a whiz at PE. The group that I hung out was a combination. One kid was really big, and he was a bully against bullies. And me and him became really close. But he was obnoxious to adults. We'd hang out after school, and he would pick on old people. And one thing that my dad taught me is never ever pick on old people. Every line on their face tells a story. So I had a lot of respect for old people, and he told me, also raised me by putting in my head, which I do respect about him. Uh, Even a bum, a homeless man, knows something you don't. He puts his pants leg on one leg at a time, just like the President of the United States. No matter who it is in life, you can always learn something from them. And every face, every line tells a story. Um, it was about the seventh grade, snooping for the dirty magazines, I discovered my dad had triple X 8mm film. And I wasn't good at figuring out how to make things work. And I knew what they were by the cover package on them. Video cassettes didn't exist back then. And boy, I learned how to wrap that film into a projector. I tell you, the drive of when you want something, you'll figure it out. So now I was watching triple X movies, and I found a book, The Joy of Sex, and I started reading that. I started learning how to have sex. And I shared the movie with some of the kids in the neighborhood, and I became even more popular. And even stole one and brought it down to that guy, the kid that I looked up to. And he wanted to hold on to it, and his mom found it, and he right away gave me up. And they didn't tell my parents, but they would. They had his mom had a boyfriend at the time, and they would kind of snicker at me and say, "Oh, you got any more movies you want to pollute my son with?" When damn well he was like the Eddie Haskell. If you don't know who that is, Google it. He was like a troublemaker and leave it to Beaver, but he was always really nice in front of parents, but away from parents, he was evil. So I started developing another complex. Why is it only me that's getting picked on? Son of a gun, man. When her son is doing the same thing. So my athletic skills stayed the same. I really never became a soccer player. Those two kids continue to annihilate me, which I continue to focus on. My dad did attend an event when I was in eighth grade playing baseball. It was coaches against fathers. And my brother Bill had just moved back into town from California with his wife and three kids. And Mike was home from the Army. And Mike was actually discharged from the Army for drug abuse. And so my older brother, which I won't say his name, and my dad decided to play. And my older brother was athletic, but my dad, well, he didn't know what he was doing. He played outfield and he missed every ball that came to him. And you can hear him out there just swearing away. The other fathers are laughing, and he kept blaming it on his bifocals. And now that I wear bifocals, I can understand the problems he was having. But since there was laughter, I wasn't embarrassed by my dad because he did get along with the other players and my three coaches. But that was the only event. And then a high school football game. Oh, I played football in 10th grade, JV. He attended one football game. But that was the only event that he had joined. And it was at this point in the 8th grade. They started socializing with a lot of the parents in the neighborhood, and they had barbecues, and he did behave himself. So I wasn't nervous in front of some of the parents in the neighborhood because there was a lot of fun going on. But there was one house on the corner, and they were, yeah, he was mafia and kind of like the Soprano, and he had 5 boys, and they were, there was one my age and one younger than me, and I became really close to them, which I will explain in the next video. And my dad started sharing stories about when he started flying after the Corps in upstate New York. He used to fly a certain, I don't remember his name, but a mob guy to Kansas City, and he would tell me that these men are men of respect. And when we started going to New York every summer for 2 weeks, and a lot of my sister's neighbor, his relatives, that became friends with him, were associated with the family. And my dad would always say, because there was big barbecues going on, and whenever certain individuals showed up, the whole barbecue, everybody just like, stop. And I remember some of the I didn't know who they were or what they were, but now that I know they were wise guys, they would walk up to all of us kids and shake the head on our hair and pinch our cheek and hand us $5 bills. That's back in the day when your grandmother, your grandfather, or your aunt, uncle would say, "Here, go buy yourself a piece of gum and give you a nickel." And here are these goombas handing out $5 bills to all the kids. So we all looked up to them. But anyway, that's it for now. Thank you for joining. I hope you made it through, and I hope the slides made sense. This is part 6, and onward and forward to part 7. Thank you for joining. Have a good day. Remember, I hate to say it, but I'm going to say it because it's what the YouTube videos say. Subscribe, and please leave your comments. Thank you, and have a very good day. Bye.